Right now, someone is lying awake, staring at the ceiling. Their body is exhausted, but their mind refuses to be quiet. They're replaying the same conversation for the 10th time, the same mistake, the same regret, the same what if. They believe if they think about it just a little longer, they'll finally find peace. But what if the very thing you believe is protecting you is actually destroying you? What if overthinking isn't a sign of intelligence, but a silent addiction? Your brain has learned to repeat. Imagine carrying a heavy chain everywhere you go. At first, you barely notice the weight. Day after day, link after link, it becomes heavier, until one morning, you wonder why life feels so exhausting. Overthinking works the same way. It never arrives all at once. It grows, one unnecessary thought at a time. Modern psychology has discovered that the brain can become trapped in a loop of repetitive thinking. The strange part is, the mind mistakes repetition for progress. You feel busy, you feel productive, you feel like you're solving the problem, but in reality, you're only feeding it. More than 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius recognized the same invisible trap. He wrote about it without knowing what psychologists would eventually prove. And hidden inside one simple Stoic principle is a question powerful enough to interrupt that endless mental loop. I'll share that question before this video ends. But be warned, most people hear it and completely misunderstand what it actually means. Because the greatest prison isn't made of iron. It's built from thoughts you refuse to let go. Let's begin. If you've ever told yourself, just stop thinking, you already know it doesn't work. Because the harder you try to force your mind to become quiet, the louder it becomes. It's like trying not to think about the ocean. The moment you tell yourself not to imagine the waves, your mind creates them instantly. This is one of the strange paradoxes of the human brain. The thoughts that you fight the hardest are often the ones that stay the longest. Psychologists call this the rebound effect. The more you try to suppress a thought, the more attention your brain gives it. Imagine holding a beach ball underwater. At first, it seems easy, but the deeper you push it down, the stronger it fights to rise. Eventually, you become exhausted. Not because the ball is heavy, but because you never stopped pushing. Overthinking works the same way. Most people don't suffer because of one painful thought. They suffer because they keep wrestling with that thought over and over again. Every replay feels like progress. Every what if feels responsible. Every imaginary conversation note feels necessary. But your mind isn't solving the problem. It's simply repeating it. Marcus Aurelius understood that peace doesn't begin when every question has an answer. Peace begins when you stop demanding that life make perfect sense. Think about how much of your life has been spent arguing with events that have already happened. The past cannot hear you. Yet many people continue debating it inside their own minds every single day. And while they argue, life quietly moves on. This is why overthinking steals more than your peace. It steals your attention, your energy, your presence. It convinces you to live inside imaginary futures or unfinished pasts instead of the only place where your life actually exists. Right here, right now. But here's the question. Almost nobody asks, if overthinking cannot be defeated by thinking harder, then what actually breaks the cycle? Marcus Aurelius believed the answer was surprisingly simple. And once you understand it, you'll realize why millions of people have been fighting their own minds the wrong way. We'll uncover that very soon. For most of his life, Marcus Aurelius carried responsibilities that few people could even imagine. He led an empire, faced wars, lost people he loved, was betrayed, criticized, and surrounded by uncertainty. Yet when you read his private journal, you find something surprising. He wasn't trying to control every possible outcome. He was training the only thing he truly owned: his mind. This is where most people take the wrong path. They believe peace comes after life becomes predictable. Marcus Aurelius believed peace begins the moment you stop demanding that life obey your expectations. Think about this. How many hours have you spent trying to solve a future that hasn't happened? How many nights have disappeared because your mind kept asking, what if? What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if everything goes wrong? But here's something your brain rarely notices. For every future you imagine, there are thousands that never happen. Yet your body reacts as if every fear is already real. Modern psychology calls this anticipatory anxiety. Your brain tries to protect you by predicting danger. But when prediction never stops, protection becomes a prison. Marcus Aurelius used a different approach. Whenever his mind wandered toward things he couldn't control, he gently brought it back to one simple question. What is mine to do right now? Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Because action breaks the cycle that endless thinking never can. Thinking has its place. Planning has its place. Reflection has its place. But there comes a moment when another thought adds nothing. It only steals the courage to take the first step. Imagine standing before a river. You could spend hours calculating how cold the water might be, how deep it might be, how fast it might be flowing. Or you could carefully take the first step. Only then does uncertainty begin to disappear. Overthinking always asks for more certainty. Wisdom asks for one small action. But here's the question that changes everything. How do you know when you're reflecting wisely and when you're simply trapped inside another loop? That answer is where Marcus Aurelius left us his greatest lesson, and we'll uncover it next. So, how do you know whether you're thinking wisely or simply overthinking? Marcus Aurelius would probably ask one simple question. Does this thought lead to action, or does it only lead to another thought? That is the difference. Wisdom always moves you toward action. Overthinking keeps you standing still. Think about it. How many times have you delayed a decision, not because you lacked answers, but because you wanted absolute certainty? The truth is, certainty is a promise life is never made. No one can predict tomorrow. No one can eliminate every risk. No one can control every outcome. The person who waits until fear disappears will spend their entire life. Waiting. Marcus Aurelius never said that courage was the absence of fear. He lived as though courage was choosing what is right, despite uncertainty. That is the quiet strength Stoicism teaches. Not a life without difficult thoughts, but a mind that refuses to become their prisoner. The next time your thoughts begin racing, don't ask, how do I stop thinking? Instead, ask yourself, what is one action I can take right now? Maybe it's making the call, writing the first page, taking a walk, having the difficult conversation, or simply closing your eyes, taking one deep breath, and accepting that not everything needs an answer today. Because peace doesn't come from controlling every possibility. Peace comes from trusting yourself to face whatever happens. Remember, your mind is a tool. It was never meant to become your master. If you learn to guide it instead of obeying it, you'll discover that the freedom you've been searching for was never waiting in the future. It was waiting inside this moment. So tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself, what thought have I been carrying that no longer deserves my energy? Leave your answer in the comments below. Someone else may read it and realize they're not fighting this battle alone. If this video helped you see your own mind more clearly, consider subscribing. Not because you owe me anything, but because every week we explore timeless wisdom that helps you become calmer, stronger, and harder to break. Until next time, protect your peace, master your mind, and always rise in silence.